What's up? What's up, Philadelphia Eagles fam?
What's happening?
It's another week. You're getting another episode of hashtag Be Elite.
Be elite.
And, and that, of course, is the Eagles Elite Podcast. So this week is episode Lucky 13.
I'm actually wearing 13 right now.
See
I
that?
didn't even think about it. That's crazy.
See that? And of course, I'm rocking that
Super Bowl.
Amazing Super Bowl champion t-shirt with the matching hat. Keep this nice and clean, fresh. Don't wear it to me making a proclamation without saying. As you can see, today it's just going to be a duo, but that doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
We still elite, and we're still going to give it to you.
Yes,
so everybody who joins, anyone who watches the replay, we're going to be discussing a lot of important things in regards to the Philadelphia Eagles. Training camp is going to be coming up. There's an open practice August 7th. There's been the first release. And we've got a few news topics that we'll also be discussing. So if you get the replay, tune in a little bit late, check us live. You know it's always interactive. And you know who we are. It's me, as always, by my co-host,
Wyatt from Squad Pod Sports and Waves 5 Media, as always.
Yes, sir. And there's one thing that we always do when we start off the show, right? We know what's coming, but we just need to remind everybody, first timers, if you've been watching, shout out to the Go-Go Gadgets. If that doesn't get you hype as an Eagles fan, if this doesn't get you hype,
nothing will.
I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, Wyatt, so we had a lot of things to discuss tonight.
Yes, sir.
Where would you like to begin, man?
Let's talk about some of the possible trade news that could be happening here. A lot of rumors going around. We talked about it, I believe, a couple weeks ago. Safety Jesse Bates for the Bengals is not happy. Apparently, they're not offering him a contract extension at this point, or they're just not able to come to terms on one. So it's looking likely that he could be moved. And a lot of these sportsbook and ESPN and such, these media outlets are putting the Eagles at number one to go out and trade for him. And apparently I saw today that it's official. Like, Eagles have contacted him to possibly acquire Jesse Bates. that would be a huge move. I mean, we talked about, like bolstering the safety here a while ago, and we thought they already did that by, going out and picking up Jaquiski Tart. So, I mean, just going out and getting Jesse Bates, who I saw he's only 25 years old. He's an up and coming a top safety in the league here. I mean, he just went to the Super Bowl. Man, that if you add that to this defense, it could be huge. Like we were already hyping the defense up.
Yes. Yeah, I did also see that, as well as some other ones, but this is the one that kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah.
I would not be upset what I've seen as far as compensation. It's Andre Dillard and anywhere from a second to third round pick, depending on where you're looking. I mean, I'll be 100% honest. Andre Dillard in a third round pick,
I would do
that
it.
trade should already be done
Easily. Yeah, easily in a heartbeat, man.
Now, if they're talking a second, it makes it a little bit more difficult. I still end up honestly doing it, but try to talk them into that third, right? Just because you want to try to keep those top 3 picks if you can, because we got 2 firsts, so that could definitely soften the blow if we were to lose our second round pick. But we'd be gaining someone that would be a phenomenal pickup for us. So yeah, I mean, either way, I think if it's a real possibility, if we can work out the contract details with him, I don't see why we wouldn't, make that happen, because safety
he's gonna want
is
a long-term deal.
Absolutely, yeah. He's gonna want to get paid, and that's one of the things. Though, if you want top players, you have to pay top bucks. Top players aren't coming for cheap. But I'm fine with paying this guy because I've seen what he can do, and I would love to have him be a part of, the Philadelphia Eagles. You can never have enough quality safeties that just pushes guys that may be good but not as good a little bit further down the depth chart. So we've got guys that could end up being backups now if we make this move. That could be starters on other teams. So injuries, different formations. Again, we talk all the time about flexibility. We talk all the time about saying, all right, we want this team to be able to play different ways. Having 3, 4 quality corners, 3, 4 quality safeties, 3, 4, 5 quality linebackers, that allows you versatility. That allows you to go out there to 3-4-4-3, 1-5-5 if you want, like just crazy things where people aren't expecting it, and that allows you to be able to catch offenses off guard. So flexibility is a must, and I'm very excited about this, and I feel this is a move, if we can make it happen, that will do exactly that for us, even more.
Yeah, and I think out of any GM that can do it, I think Howie can do it. It seems like either right before a season or right at the beginning of a season, he always seems to pull off some sort of crazy trade for somewhat nothing. I mean, we saw it a couple years ago, like I think it was the Super Bowl season with Jay Ajayi. I think Ronald Darby, even though he didn't turn out like a great pickup, I'm pretty sure it was like during the midseason, wasn't it? Like getting Darby, if I'm misremembering maybe. But he's done it a couple times. But I think adding Jesse Bates is a huge addition to the defense if we did make it happen.
It was, yeah, because we started out with Blunt. We started out with Blunt that year, and then we added Ajayi. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we were a little off there.
There's nothing you can really say about that except this movie would be amazing.
Yeah, and I think giving up Andre Dillard.
Yeah, this movie would be amazing.
That's not much, especially because I know people are going to say, well, what about the O-line depth? And I think even if you get rid of him, because he didn't really pan out like we wanted to, we expect him to be a starter on this offensive line. And even if you get rid of them, even like the backup dudes that we have, or if you scoop guys off a practice squad, you still got Jeff Stoughton in there that's going to be able to coach those guys to come in if they have to. So I don't see it as much of a risk if you do that. It's a high reward, low risk at this point. You're just taking a lot of money on the books, possibly.
Yeah, I don't see it as a risk at all, to be honest with you. Like you said, we've got one of the best line coaches, I feel like, in the league. Jordan Mailata has basically made Andre Dillard expendable.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things. We brought him in for a certain job. He hasn't been able to win that job. So I wouldn't mind if he stays. But if we can turn him in a second rounder into an elite young safety.
Yeah,
That's a no-brainer.
absolutely. I'll throw Jalen Reagor in there too.
Hey man, if they'll take Jalen Reagor, him, and like a third or fourth, I'm with that
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Either like Dillard and a third, or you can take Dillard, Reagor, and a fourth, or so, or a
Hey,
fifth.
whatever. Look, we may have to give him a second just to take Rager. For those
I,
of you who may be watching for the first time, this show is not a fan of Jalen Rager.
no, no. He hasn't given us a reason to be, or else we would be. But I saw like rumors about them possibly cutting him too here this past week, that he may not even make the roster.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that. I'm not surprised because honestly, I mean, you haven't performed. You haven't performed over 2 years. We've brought in your replacement already in AJ Brown.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, I mean, we could drop you down a depth chart, but you're not going to be the third receiver.
Yeah,
That's pretty. I feel like that's pretty much a 2-man race for me. Is
and maybe
Zach
not even the
Pascal and
fourth.
Count, and then Quez Watkins, and I think whoever loses that is going to be the fourth receiver.
Yeah.
So I think at best you're looking at him being the fifth receiver, and a first round pick being your fifth receiver.
Not a good look. But I saw it was
Not a
only
good
like
look at all.
2.5 mil in dead cap if we cut him, which isn't really much. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but it's not much compared to what we've let go in the past. I mean, we were on the hook for like 30 something mil with what Leaf like trading Wentz. So 2.5 is nothing at this
Yeah,
point.
2.5 is really like I would do it. Like if he can't show, and here's the problem: even if he shows that he's really good in camp, the problem is he can't do it when it matters.
Yeah.
Right. So if he goes and he has an amazing camp and he's the best wide receiver in camp, he's not going to do it during the season. So I
No.
think if he has a great camp and people feel like, oh, this is the guy, I think what you do is you capitalize on that and you trade him. I think however it goes, you trade him or you cut him. But I think he's not going to be a guy that's going to be in our long-term plans.
Oh
He
no.
was a bad pick, but we've rectified that with some moves that we've made,
Mm-hmm.
which is different. And again, I will give Howie credit for that because I'm not one of those guys. I've bagged on Howie a lot. I've started the hashtag Fire Howie thing a couple of years ago. So I'm not going to act like those
Yeah.
things didn't happen. But he's found a way to at least ingratiate himself to me somewhat. Still skeptical. Still not completely buying in. Takes more than 1 year.
Oh
But I
yeah,
will give
for
him the
sure.
credit to say that, he has us looking a lot better than he has in several years. Excuse me.
Yeah, and I would much rather trade him and get something back for him than just let him off the hook. But I mean, I'd be fine with either way at this
Yeah.
point. I'm sure somebody would pick him up. But I saw a lot of the rumors and stuff going around here before camp is saying that just it seems like the organization and like Sirianni are more sold on some of these other prospects that they have, on the practice squad or just some of the guys that are lower on the depth chart that they signed already.
Yeah.
So I mean, if they're sold on some of these younger guys that look like they can build into something, you're already a couple years into this dude. Like at this point, I don't see it getting any better, at least here in Philly for him. So either trade him or cut him, move on at this point.
Yeah, and then if we do trade him, that'll open up actually some more cap space because right
Yeah.
now we only have 8.79 million. So we're tight against the cap right now. So even though he would have, about 2.5 million dead cap number, he's obviously getting paid, roughly probably around about 7-8 million. So that would still save us cap room to get rid of a guy who hasn't really done a lot to deserve the pay. However that goes, I'm a big fan of let's go. Goodbye, Jalen Reagor.
Peace. Don't let the door hit you, man.
Yeah, that's my personal opinion. Obviously, I am not the one that makes the decisions, but that's my opinion. So now we got a couple of other news topics to talk about, but one I just found kind of interesting is I was looking at the Madden ratings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, there's not a lot of positions where we see an Eagle that makes much noise, but there is one position where we have an Eagle pretty high. He's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th ranked, and that's Dallas Goedert, who was an 85
Mm-hmm.
in Madden. So I saw that and I thought, oh, that's cool. And the reason I thought that was cool was he's a guy that I've talked about. I think, in personal opinion, I'm an Eagles fan. You may agree with me. You may think I'm overstepping a little bit. He's better than Kyle Pitts and Mike Gesicki, in my opinion.
Oh, I can agree.
So
I
I
mean,
think he should be.
Eagles bias aside, just seeing like his body of work and what he's done. Yeah, I mean, he's a great tight end.
I think he's top 5. I think
Oh
the
yeah,
only tight ends that I
sure.
would say right now that I would take over him: Travis Kelsey, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, and Darren Waller. I think he's better than T.J. Hawkinson, Kyle Pitts,
Yeah,
and Mike Gesicki. So I would put him at 5.
yeah,
That's that's me. I acknowledge there's some guys that are better than him right now. With Waller, the interesting question is health.
yeah,
But those 4 guys to me are the guys that I would definitely say they're above him. They even have Ertz at 84 on here, so he's only 1 point below him, 2 spots.
yeah.
But yeah, just a little interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree with you though. I think he's definitely a top 5 tight end in the league. Um, I mean, he does have some drops here and there, but that's really the only thing that works against him in certain situations. He can block really well. He gets a lot of yards after catch. He bulldozes through different defenders. He's just an all around great tight end, and I think if they kind of work, I know you have a lot of options here on the offense, but I think he has the possibility to have a big season this season, especially with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown kind of, distracting everybody else. And then you also have the third receiver as well, whoever that may be. But Dallas Goedert, he is the tight end for this team now. I mean, it was the past couple of years, it was Ertz and him. Now it's Dallas Goedert. And now he can be a top 5 tight end if he wants to be. It's just a matter of getting rid of those drops and, just getting open and getting touchdowns. And I mean, we haven't really had to worry about injuries with him, knock on wood, so far. He's been pretty sturdy and reliable. But he's such a huge part of this offense.
Yeah, and he's a better blocker than a lot of people have given him credit for. I wouldn't say he's a great blocker, but for a guy that has his offensive talent, he's a pretty solid blocker as well. So, that's something that's important as well. He's a guy that you can chip block off of. He's a guy that you can run to his side. Now, he's a guy that can do a little bit of everything. And I only see him getting better at that, hopefully, throughout his career. Because once some of the athleticism is gone, when you have that reputation for being a guy that can do both and that craftiness of being a veteran, you can kind of get some big plays off of plays that look like it's a block, and you're just kind of doing your thing with it and breaking off for little short plays when no one's covering you and turning those into big plays. So I think those are going to be some of the things I'm looking for out of Dallas Goedert to do for us moving forward, to kind of take that Ertz role, to kind of be that guy. So hopefully, he'll continue the lineage of quality tight ends that the Philadelphia Eagles have had. Wide receiver, we've had a lot of questionable players picked and brought in, but we've been pretty solid for a while at tight end. You go back, you think about guys like Chad Lewis,
Brett Selleck.
Brent Selleck, Zach Ertz, and now we got Dallas Goedert. So we've been very, very solid there for a while. So hopefully that's going to continue.
And I mean, we mentioned the drops, but I mean, on the opposite end, he's had a lot of great, crazy catches as well.
Yeah.
Like these fingertip catches in the end zone. He's gone up for a couple of them, Hail Mary balls. He has great hands. It's just every now and then in just these kind of like third down situations, whatever, it'll hit him right in the hands about. So you're like, what are you doing? But he has far more better catches than he does, drops, which is why he's up there. He is a higher tight end up in the league. But I think it can only go up from here for him.
All the way up. That's
All
where
the
we
way
need
up.
you, Dallas Goedert. So we were talking a minute ago about players who need to have good seasons. So we did, good camps, excuse me. We did talk about Jalen Reagor, but also there's Isaac Seumalo.
Yeah.
He's a guard. He was our left guard in like 2019, played all the games, but since then, a lot of injuries. Only 3 games last year, so other guys have gotten opportunities. So I think he's a guy that, for his pay and his age, if he doesn't win a starting job, he might be a guy that we look to move just because of contract.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think this is the last year on his deal.
Yeah.
I see. I'm on the boat that I think we should find someone to replace him anyway. Just because, like, I've never been really sold on Seumalo. I mean, he's had to fill in a lot. He's got a lot of starting because of Brandon Brooks's injury history at certain points. But just something about him, man. I don't know what it is. He works well because he's being trained under like Jeff Stoutland and everything. He's serviceable. Um, but whenever you see like the line break in at certain points, it's usually right there where he's at
Mm-hmm.
in certain situations. I if he's willing to stay on like a backup role, I'd be cool with keeping him, but I doubt he's going to want to do that. But I would look somewhere else, either through the draft or maybe trying to get someone else, either through like free agency or something next year.
Right. And he's 7.67 million against the cap
Oh, really?
for next season. And so for this season.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So he's a guy that if he win that starting job, I'm pretty confident we may be moving on because you don't want to pay that kind of money to a guy. And then also another guy, I hate to say it. I mean, this dude is like speed personified. Like this dude is fast. If you remember, he played a couple of games last year. He was one of the backs that was in that last game that had like one of those real big, ridiculous runs. He is just speed personified, man. But you look at who's in front of him, you think about, the other guys, right? You got Kennedy Brooks, the rookie. You got Boston Scott. We got Kenneth Gainwell. We know we got Miles Sanders. So we're looking at him being probably the fifth back at best.
Yeah.
And the problem is, are we going to keep 5 running backs? I think we should with the injury history with Miles Sanders, but
yeah,
it's questionable.
Would you rather keep Kennedy Brooks or Jason Huntley?
You got to keep Brooks because you need the bigger back.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. And
yeah,
like you mentioned before, he has that history with like Jalen Hurts and everything too.
Yeah.
And we don't have another bigger back unless you bring in Jordan Howard again.
Right. Now, if it comes down to Howard or Huntley, Huntley might have to go back on the practice squad.
For the time being, unless Howard gets injured again.
Yeah, but Howard and both of those guys will get injured. So I think, Brooks is probably a guy that's going to find a way to make the roster as that fourth back. And that's why I think we may be looking at Huntley being a guy that has to be put on the practice squad. But hopefully he can make the team. It's just all depending upon how we feel about the position.
Yeah, I could definitely see Jason Huntley be put on the practice squad, and then Kennedy Brooks just kind of hanging out there on that fourth spot on the roster. Because I mean, I don't see us letting go. I mean, we just signed Boston Scott again. Kenny Gainwell's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And like you said, I'm sure Miles Sanders will miss at least 1 or 2 games this season.
Yeah.
Which I hope not. I hope not.
Yeah, it's just
fans. I'm not wishing for his downfall. I'm just looking realistically. He's probably gonna miss a couple games.
History says he's definitely gonna miss some games. I don't feel like you're, whatever, because he's gonna miss some games. Now, a quick switch up, man, to something a little less exciting, man. So one of our former wide receivers, Charles Johnson, passed away at 50. So, rest in peace to him, man, and my condolences definitely go out to his family. Hate when a member of the Eagles family, passes away, but it does happen. But definitely RIP to his family.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, just wanted to get that out there, man. Acknowledge that. We had a couple of more things to discuss. One about one of our favorite Eagles cornerbacks of the past, Nnamdi Asomugha. Or as a lot of Eagles fans were calling him, Nnamdi Trashima.
Yeah.
I mean, off the field, this dude scored. Bad woman. Made money, did all kinds of stuff, very well spoken. On the field, in the words of LaShawn McCoy, after the first practice, I could tell this dude was a bust. Asante Samuel echoed that sentiment as well.
Yeah, they said like the very first practice, the very first play, he got burnt by like Brett Selleck on like a corner route or a post route. And it's like, and they're like, oh man, this is not good. Like it's gonna be a long season. Like this is the dude that you went out and scooped. It's like Oh man, we saw the evolution of it just dropping downhill throughout the season, but these dudes already knew it in the first practice.
And the funny part is, we signed him to keep him away from the Arlington football team, essentially,
Yeah.
because we wanted to make sure he didn't go there. But we should have let him go
We
there.
should have let him go to it would have benefited us even more than picking
Right.
him up.
Hindsight being 2020, that would have been two big games for somebody because he was looking like burnt toast back there for real. It was
Yeah.
sad, man. He's a guy that didn't get thrown on a lot in Oakland, and some people have tried to make the argument for him that without people really throwing to him, he got out of practice. And I'm like, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Sorry, we're not rocking with
Yeah.
that. If you were always a great receiver, then you're a great receiver. Revis Island, it doesn't matter if you went to Revis Island 2 times a game or 20 times a game. It was shut down. It wasn't happening.
Yeah.
This is a guy who I think reputation and scheme saved him for a lot of years. Got him paid by us. Definitely fooled us, fooled a lot of teams. But hey,
Similar
it
to
happens.
Kiko Alonso.
Ha, 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 ha.
He just fooled a
Yeah.
lot of teams a lot longer than
Yeah.
Nnamdi Asamoah.
But we saw it and we got rid of him. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
a perfect example of another guy. We've had several of those guys, man. Nelson Aguilar was one as well. Fooled a lot of guys.
Nelson Aguilar.
Yep.
Yeah, but with Nelson Aguilar, he at least had some ups for us. Like during that 2017 season, he did have some nice catches. He did have a couple nice games, but yeah, after that, it went downhill super quick.
Yeah, it was down before that. One spike, back to being Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll take it.
Who was the running back we scooped for like a year from Dallas? I forget his name now because he only played like 1 more year, 2 years.
DeMarco Murray.
DeMarco Murray. I remember being hype whenever I was like, oh, we got a like beast running back. We're gonna be, and then they used him completely wrong. Like they were running him out to the outsides and stuff. Like, what are you doing? And then he just like ended up like leaving and retiring like the next season or like a year after.
The whole problem with that situation was we still had LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah.
But the thumb, as I like to call Chip Kelly, the human thumb, decided that he wanted to get rid of guys that were long-standing Eagles that had helped build the team up. Eventually led us to a Super Bowl, though, so I can't be too upset. But
yeah, but I'll never forgive him for that.
McCoy was there. Exactly.
Yeah. And
Sean Jackson didn't hurt as much.
Washington.
Yeah, Jackson didn't hurt for me as much, but McCoy never was ever really a problem, at least to media and outside people. No one's ever came out and really said that he was a problem. So losing him like that, it did, kind of suck a little bit. But
yeah, like why? Like there was no reason for it.
You never know, man. But like I said, it did eventually lead us to a Super Bowl, so you can't be too mad for that.
Yeah, I guess. I hope. Yeah, that's true. Looking at it optimistically.
All I gotta do is look in the camera and I remember.
Like, oh yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hopefully we can get back there here soon. It seems like we're trying to get him back into that mentality. Going out and getting the best players available.
Yeah, definitely. So Wyatt, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about training camp a lot. It's going to be starting. The coaches are
6
actually
days.
reporting
6
on
days
Sunday.
away.
Yeah, coaches are reporting on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
What are some guys, maybe they're in a battle with someone else, or some guys that you think really need to perform well in training camp to see the field and make the roster? Either or.
Other than Jalen Reagor, you mean?
Yes.
Well, I mean, he had a really good training camp last year, and you saw how that worked out. Man, there's a couple on here. Like we mentioned, Sec McPherson is a guy that needs to step up as far as like being in the corner, because we're starting to see a little bit of a crowded cornerback room here. And he's a guy that's really needed to step up as well as Kavon Wallace.
Yep.
Not even just injury wise, but they need to step up, take it to the next level as far as a player. They need to prove it that they deserve to be on this roster and prove that they need to go out and try to win a starting job, or else it's just going to be another guy that either we trade, we let go into the practice squad, and we'll just draft their replacement or get another replacement eventually. We've been seeing that happen with some of these prospects throughout these past couple years. More so on the defensive side, because I feel like on the offensive side, we're pretty much lined up with who we have as far as like starters and even as far as depth wise. Like you were saying, I think running back, I mean, like Jason Huntley and Kennedy Brooks, they're going to be kind of fighting back and forth. Where I think Kennedy Brooks, like we were saying, his size is probably going to puts him on the roster, because we don't have any bigger guys as far as running backs go, unless they go with another Jordan Howard pickup. But I think it's, as far as like standouts, we're going to have to see a lot more from like the defense, from the depth pieces. More so like the younger guys, if they want a spot on the team, because Howie made sure to go out here and get up some depth on the defense. So it's just kind of those depth pieces fighting for that starting job. And you can really look at any one of them. And I know that's kind of a broad answer, but specifically, like, sorry, my screen is dark here. Zach McPherson and Kavon Wallace. Now, like Tay Godwin, we pretty much thought he was going to be on the roster. He's a pretty good backup, but like somewhat like cornerbacks like Josh Blackwell or Mario Goodrich. Like I don't know too much about Mario Goodrich
or Mac McCain.
But those type of guys. I mean, we already saw, what is it, Craig James? He got dropped already. So, yep. I mean, that was a guy that we thought was going to be fighting for a roster spot here. But that possibly be opening up a deal for either like Jesse Bates, or if we're picking up somebody else, it's one roster spot open.
Now that dropping him right when this Jesse Bates thing happened kind of had me thinking the same thing. Hoping at least.
It's coincidental.
For me,
it's suspicious.
Yeah, for me, there's two names on offense that I'm really waiting to see what they do. They're both wide receivers. That's going to be John Hightower and Zach Pascal. Those are two guys that I think really are going to need to have strong camps in order to be in that top 5 wide receivers, because we brought in some other guys. The fast guy from track and field is one of them that can play wide receiver.
Devin Allen.
If he can catch, Devin Allen, if he can catch, I think somebody's going to be gone, because the thing about it is his speed is not in question. It's his ability to catch. If he can catch the ball, if he's a guy that can catch 70% of his balls, because a lot of them are probably going to be deep balls or a little short screen that pops, and he just give him a chance to accelerate, just let him go. If he can catch the ball, I think one of those two guys don't make the roster.
Yeah, he jumps up the list pretty quick if he can catch the ball.
Yeah.
But I completely agree. Yeah, and I mean, John Hightower, he's a dude
like Huntley.
Go ahead, man. Sorry.
Just speed.
Yeah. Sorry, man. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, you're good. No, go ahead. What you were saying?
But I was gonna say with John Hightower, I think it's now or never with him. He's been on the roster for what, 3 years, 4 years, just kind of hanging in the wings.
Yeah, he came the same time as Rager and Watkins, same year.
Yeah, and he's been way lower on the depth chart, going in like practice squad to active roster. It's make or break it now. If he doesn't have a good camp, he's either back to the practice squad or they're going to release him. Because I don't know, I see his name every year on that depth chart, and it's like, why is this dude still here? Because it was like a year or two ago, it was between him and Quez Watkins, and Quez Watkins is the one that pretty much won that job. He's the one that won everybody over in the organization, and he quickly moved up that depth chart, and now it's looking like he's probably going to be that starting third spot, most likely. Either him, like you mentioned before, switching out with who's the other one? Pascal. That we picked, we scooped from the Colts. So yeah, I think Devon Allen, he needs to have a huge camp, and then he's probably going to make that roster. Because I think that's the exact kind of wide receiver that Sirianni wants on the roster. I think that's definitely a Sirianni pickup as well. And if he can make that work, he's for sure going to make that roster.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you about some of the guys on defense. Zach McPherson, I'd say 100%, man. He's a guy that same draft.
Yeah. A
That
lot of
draft
guys out of that
consists of a
same
lot of
draft.
guys. Yeah, they're out of that same draft. So they're going into the third year. It's just kind of time to see, are those the right picks? You know, they've
Mm-hmm.
maintained to this point, but they've got to get over that hump. So I think that a lot of those guys, they're lower on the roster spots. They were out of that same draft, and it's time to put up or shut up. You know, if you're not a first or second round pick, you get a little bit more, grace, right? Because you're not necessarily initially affecting everything. You're
Mm-hmm.
expected to take some time to develop, but we're going into year 3. So if we don't see some of development, I think we're going to see some more moves like Craig James, where guys, it's just like, we just haven't seen the development that we need in these guys. And we're going to have to move in different directions. But I'm curious for training camp because I just want to see the battles. I want to see the guy that comes out of nowhere that we're not expecting.
Yeah.
I want to see if Tyree Jackson is going to be able to get back up, tight end job. I think another guy that we know is probably going to get cut is JJ Arcega-Whiteside. I mean, I think we're pretty
Yeah.
confident that he's another guy that's probably
Yeah.
not going to
That's
make it
that's why we haven't
out of this
mentioned him until
training
now.
camp. Yeah. So yeah, definitely, man, some guys that I think will fall back if they don't do better and improve a lot, this season. There's more, but we won't take the time to name everybody, but you definitely hit the head on guys that you named as well that I feel like are in that same boat.
Yeah. And I mean, going like off of what you're just saying, like as far as like the tight end position, because I guess JJ Arcega-Whiteside has moved to tight end. It's pretty stacked there, like you mentioned with Tyrese Jackson. You got Grant Calcaterra, who we just drafted, and then you had like Richard Rodgers, who we've been kind of keeping on the roster for a while now, and he's been pretty much like I always say, like old reliable, kind of like similar to a Greg Ward, where you can just kind of pop him into the offense and he makes it work. He's been pretty reliable when you throw him in there. Or like Greg Ward, you throw him in as like a QB or some weird red zone. Of course, that's not going to work. But Richard Rodgers, he's been pretty reliable for us. And then you have like Noah Tagai. I don't even know. I don't recognize that name. But you also got like Jack Stoll on there as well. So you got a pretty stacked tight end room. So we're going to be seeing a couple of these guys get cut.
Yep. And then I'm glad that you brought that name up. That's another guy that's going to be on that shopping block, I think, this year. That's Greg Ward.
Greg Ward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's another guy. I mean, you think about it, we're probably going to keep 5, maybe 6 receivers. You think about the top 3 are really pretty solidified. So now 3 through 6, 3 through 5, 3, basically 4 and 5. You have Greg Ward, Zach Pascal, Hightower, Allen. You got a lot of guys fighting for just a couple of spots. Ward, it's a lot of guys. So you got to think about. There's going to be some guys that we probably love as Eagles fans that are not going to be on this team at the training camp. And then depending who becomes available, there's probably going to be multiple ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see Greg Ward getting cut, especially if you see Devon Allen make the roster. If he's able to have a good camp, I think he's definitely going to make the roster. Britton Covey, we'll see how that works out. Or what's it, Carrick Wheatfall. And like you said, John Hightower as well. I mean, it's a stacked wide receiver room right now, and that's where training camp's going to be coming in. But I mean, those top 3, 4 guys are pretty much locked in at this point. So I mean, there's only 1 or 2 spots available. So it's going to be a tough battle for these guys, and we'll see who comes out on top.
Yeah, it's going to be quite the interesting thing because there's going to be, I think, a lot of turnover in like just the bottom end players. Yeah. I think that's going to be the one thing that's very interesting. Like everywhere you look, you see the starters as Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, and AJ Brown, right? Then you're looking behind them and trying to figure out Jalen Reagor, John Hightower, Deion Kane, Josh Hammond, Carrick Wheatfall, like you said, Britton Covey, Devon Allen. There's probably only going to be 2 of those guys behind that top three that are even going to make this team. And I feel like Zach Pascal is going to be one of them.
Yeah,
So
I think he will too.
yeah, because I think he knows the system. He was brought in specifically to bolster the wide receiver unit. I don't think adding AJ Brown made him expendable. I think they just made him a guy that you can now use in a role that you're probably more comfortable and more along the role that you initially anticipated when you brought him in. You even look at guys that we've had a while, like Brett Toth. He's dropped to third on the depth chart. So he's a guy that maybe practice squad, maybe doesn't make it. Jack Driscoll, our backup right guard. Then we'll look at right tackle. Lane Johnson hasn't been the same. Behind him, we've got guys like LaRaven Clark, Jerry Williams, guys we don't really know too much about.
Yeah, LaRaven Clark, he was on the Ravens before, I'm pretty sure, but he's been kind of off and on our roster.
Yeah.
Here a little bit. Practice squad and then active roster.
Yeah.
But I think Greg Ward, if we let him go, I think he'll definitely be picked up by somebody else for sure.
Yeah, I can see him getting picked up. But like I said, man, unless he finds a way to beat out Hightower and some of these guys, which he's done before.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got a possibility of making it. But I think he's definitely a guy that's really in that fight for that fifth, maybe sixth spot if we end up keeping 6 wide receivers.
Yeah, because there's nothing flashy really about him. He's a great route runner, but he's not like super fast. He doesn't have like amazing hands. He's a good wide receiver. That's about it. Like he's serviceable. He's not bad. He's not a terrible wide receiver. He manages. He's just kind of a middle of the pack wide receiver.
He's Jason Avant to me. He's Jason Avant. He's the guy that he's sure-handed most of the time, but he needs more reps. You had that time back when we had that wonderful Jeremy Maclin, Deshaun Jackson, and Jason Avant. That was a good wide receiver group. It was very much underrated, I felt like, by people that were not Eagles fans. Avant was the guy that didn't have the speed of some of the other guys, but he could get open, get in the seams, and you could always feel confident he was going to make the catch. So, that's the kind of guy I feel like Greg Ward would be if he had more opportunities. But understanding the way that everything else looks on the team, that's why he's not getting those opportunities. And there's not a lot you can do about that just because you have so many other guys.
Yeah. I would take him over Reagor because we've actually seen Ward show up in big moments in games. Like he doesn't drop the ball whenever, like in these huge moments. He's had big third down, fourth down conversions, and even touchdowns at certain times. Where we can't really say the same about Jalen Reagor.
And you notice we have not spoken much except for how we want him gone about Jalen Reagor. I do believe that his time's over. However that happens, I do believe that his time as an Eagle is over. I think he's going to be a guy that makes it to the last cuts because they're going to try to get some value for him. But, at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to make the team.
Put some good footage out there.
Yeah.
And then ship him off wherever that may be. Maybe try to get a pick or something back for him. Who knows?
Yeah. So, yeah, man, that's pretty much, what I think about that. So I wanted us to end. We got about, 17 minutes or so left. We don't really worry too much about the time. But I want to talk a little bit about just kind of wrapping up last season. Now, first, did you have any other news that you want to talk about the Eagles?
No, I'm pretty sure we covered most of everything. I'm just excited for training camp here. I mean, next time we do the show, we'll be right in the middle of, not in the middle of it, but it will be already started by then.
Yep. Yeah, the coaches will be there on Sunday, and the players will report a few days after that. So excited to kind of get that started. Preseason is going to be happening. We'll be talking about those games as well. They don't mean as much, but just essentially performances, because there'll be a lot of guys that these preseason games could make or break their ability to be on the roster or even be on the practice squad. So we'll definitely talk about the performances that we get from training camp, and then we get into the preseason about that.
Yeah, I usually try to watch a preseason game or two.
Time, man. Just want to take the rest of the time to really kind of just put a ribbon, a bow, tie up. But just any thoughts you have of the 2021 season, anything you'd like to see us carry over from that season, anything you'd like to see us, maybe not do. highs and lows, things you think that will help us be a better team this year?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I hope that carries over is
I know I'm putting
running
you on the
that
spot. We didn't
ball.
talk about this.
Like keep running the ball successfully. Don't like I know you have all these weapons and you're hopefully they find, you know, smart ways to utilize them. You know, because we have seen us have not these kind of weapons before, but where we thought we have serviceable weapons, but then they use screens or just easy readable plays for the defense. Um, but hopefully, I mean, like we mentioned, Sirianni isn't calling plays this year. Hopefully, we can just have that offense we were seeing kind of towards the end of the season last year roll over into this one. And we're also getting to see the same offense in the same all these players in the same offense under the same playbook for the second year in a row. We're not having any turnover as far as like coaching. So Jalen Hurts should roll into the season a better version of himself. Where I know we talked about it before, we've seen him kind of overcome and adapt and grow as a QB throughout the season, where he was kind of clearing up a lot of those mistakes as he was going. Does he have stuff he needs to work on? Absolutely. But we've been seeing him kind of work on that throughout this offseason. And hopefully, I mean, we saw in a couple of the early training camp stuff, he worked on his throwing mechanics. He worked on his timing, getting the balls out earlier. If he's able to carry that over into the season with this offense, hit guys open, not sit in the pocket too long, because we were seeing that a little bit last year. He was sitting in the pocket a little too long, or he would just kind of break and run very early instead of kind of looking at his options. Where, I mean, it could have been part of the play, but it was happening a lot. So I don't think it's part of every play where that happened. But as far as the defense, I would like it if the secondary weren't playing 10 yards back off of these defenders. I wish they would play a little bit more man to man. I'm not sure if that was part of the scheme because we didn't have the personnel that he necessarily really wanted last year or that we had. Whereas we added a lot of depth, a lot of great pieces this offseason. Maybe they can go a little bit more aggressive with the defensive line. Maybe they can be more aggressive in the secondary. I'm hoping Jonathan Gannon can call good games here on defense this year. And that's really the big question mark that I have. I'm not really as worried about the offense as much because we saw how they are able to overcome and kind of work things out going throughout a season. And I think it's going to be a lot easier with the weapons and the players we have now on offense. Whereas the defense, I think we have great players and great depth, but is Jonathan Gannon going to be able to utilize them successfully? Whereas last year, yeah, they were serviceable. We had some games where it was a bend not break, but a lot of the times we were making some of these mediocre quarterbacks look like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, where we can't be having that this year.
Yeah, definitely agree a lot with what you said. Um, for me, definitely Jalen Hurts is where everything starts and ends.
Yeah.
We've got to see him be a better version of himself. I don't expect him to go out and be a guy that throws for 5,000 yards and whatever. He's a
Yeah.
guy that I want to see throw for between 3,000 and 4,000 yards. I want to see him run for another 500 to 800 yards. If the play calls for it, if the read calls for it, then I'd like for him to pull style of offense that we ran with Nick Foles. I think that's an offense that a guy like Hurts can thrive in because
Yeah.
you're eyeing a specific player, and based on what they do, you're running the ball, throwing the ball, or handing it off. So I think we need to implement some of that, and I don't want that to be our main offense, but I want us to do that enough to where it's comfortable. I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of switch things up. I'm all about switching things up. But Steichen now going to his first full season calling plays, and we know he called at least about, based on what we were told, about half of the season last year.
Mm-hmm.
Just expand the playbook a little bit by some of the things that you do, right? Instead of
Get
running
more
the same screens,
creative.
let's fake a screen. Yeah, fake a screen to the right, spin and do a quick pass to the left. Fake doing the same play 2-3 times in a row in the same formation with the same guys, but different plays. It's kind of like what you do on Madden, right? You play Madden, you're playing against the computer and all Madden. You do the same play twice, the computer's going to destroy you.
Hmm.
But if you fake or you do the same play, but you hit a different receiver that was covered before, but it's open this time, line, call an audible, still in the same formation, but different play. Those type of things I want to see some of this year. I want to see Hurts take enough command of the offense, and hopefully he's learned the offense to the point where he can call audibles on the field and feel comfortable. That's where your
Yeah.
quarterback starts to be the guy. When he can look out there and say,
Hmm.
this play's not going to work. Coach, we audible out of this. And call those audibles in a manner that everyone can understand, and he knows all the routes for all the different plays. The biggest criticism that I have for him from last year was the ability to read the entire field was not there.
I agree.
I'll give everyone who said that he cannot read defenses. Um, I'll give you that. I won't argue with you. I won't say anything against that because I agree with that. The biggest criticism I disagree with is that he has a noodle arm.
Yeah.
He can throw, but again, when you're second guessing what you're doing and you're trying to drop it into a specific area, but you don't have the accuracy that you need because your motion is not the motion it needs to be to give you your best chance to plan and throw with accuracy, you're going to see some of those bad plays that we saw from him. You'll see some of those bad throws, and I'm not excusing the throws. I'm just saying the way that people. There were a lot of bad fumbles last year. Some of them didn't cause anything major to happen, but too many. We
Yeah.
should never have even been that tight in that first Giants game. But if we don't fumble that ball, we win that game. You can't tell me we don't win that game.
Oh yeah.
Defensively, so many things to talk about, but I'll simply sum it up kind of along the lines of carrying on what you were saying. I've said it before, different formations, usage of the proper people. We got guys like Davion Taylor, who's also been around for a while. Kaiser White's going to be starting now, so you don't have an opportunity to be that starter, but it doesn't mean you can't be that fourth linebacker. You can't be the first guy in, once you're rotating. Then if guys are injured, guys being ready to step up, you're always one injury away from being a starter. So I need our backups to look at it that way. I need them to come into the season realizing, hey, I may not be the starter, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to play. I'm going to be in the rotation. And if you're the third string guy, be ready. Like everybody be ready because you never know who's going to get hurt. And you're going to go from 3-2, just like that.
Yeah.
I don't want our team to focus on the adulation, the praise, the people saying good things about us because we've had a great offseason. We had a great offseason. There's been many teams that were great on paper that did nothing in the season. I
Yeah.
want us to go out there like the underdog mentality that we've had before. Even though people are saying, oh, you're supposed to be so great because you added this and this and this. Oh, we haven't done anything on the field yet.
Yeah. Prove
We
it.
lost in the playoffs in the first round last year. You're only as good as your record shows for the last time you played. So go out to destroy everyone. You said that 1,000, 2,000, a million, a billion, a trillion% agree with. Run the ball. You have multiple guys. Run the ball.
Yeah.
When we get to the
There's no
second
reason you shouldn't be.
half, we should be. Miles Sanders can get in and feast. And speaking of Miles Sanders, we need you to stay healthy for most of the season, if not all of it. We also need you to
Please.
plant and go. Plant and go.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah. Stay out of your head.
maybe I'm going to do a play. Yeah. Not I'm going to slow down because I think I'm going to get hit or I just got back from injury. I want to get hurt again. Go leave it on the field. If you get hurt, you get hurt. But leave it on the field, Miles Sanders. We need you to step up. This is your day. You want to be a starting running back. But we need you this year. You're more important than you were last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they cannot start off the season with him standing on the side looking silly. They start the season with him behind center, getting carries and making big plays. And I'm telling you this right now, Miles Sanders, you may not ever see this, but I want to say this and I hope you hear it. Get in the end zone. many times this year. Do not decelerate.
Please.
Fight. Get them last few yards. Cut, go, and get some scores. Let's do this.
Yeah.
We got Kenneth Gainwell back there. We got the mini muscle man, the new Mighty Mouse, Boston Scott. Let's go, man. But y'all got to play. The calls have got to be
Yeah.
good to use them. The line has to block well, and they have to do their thing. Defense, when you're on the field, play hard. We've got a really great, on paper, tandem. We need y'all to perform on the field as well. We need you to hold players up. We need you to make it difficult for quarterbacks to hit those receivers, so that it allows that good line a chance to get back there and disrupt passes, get strip sacks, bad balls up, all those things. It's all working together. It's all a unit. Offense needs to stay on the field, run the ball some, allow the defense to rest. Defense needs to go out there, get the ball back as quickly as they can, put pressure on other teams' defense. Coaching has to be on point. We just have to, as a team, as a unit, the Philadelphia Eagles need to come out in 2023, 2022, 2023 season and say, listen, people are saying we're this, we're that, we're the most improved team, blase. It doesn't matter. Until we get out here and win games, it doesn't matter. Let's go out here and win games. Let's show everybody who we can be. Let's win the East. Let's shut the Arlington football team up.
Yeah.
I
And then you
predicted
can
us
talk
to
all
beat
you
in both
want.
games. Let's do it.
But yeah, to add on to what you were saying, like as far as going off of what you're saying about Miles
all I got to say
Sanders,
about
we may seem extremely hard on him, but that's because we know of his potential. We know what he can do when
victory
he's
is
not
when you
out of his
talk.
head.
At the end of the year, yeah. This year, when I go and cover the Super Bowl, I want one of those teams to be the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I'm not going to try to guarantee it. I'm not going to say it's a definite going to happen, but I want that to happen. The only way that's going to happen is if we win 12, 13 games this year.
Oh, yeah, you
Get
have
home
to.
field advantage because that's when we won. So let's do it.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah, if you're able to get home field advantage and make everybody come to
only
Philly,
us.
it's up to us at that point.
We know who we got to play. Yeah. Let's make it happen. I mean, we talked about the offseason. We talked about last season. A lot of coachable moments, a lot of things that could have been better, a lot of things that weren't as good as they say. It is what it is. We now in a new season. We getting ready for training camp. Mistakes of the past should help you build a future. Like you said, same staff, a lot of the same players. So it's time to step up, Philly. It's time to see what we can do. I don't know if it's Super Bowl, but it's got to be playoffs. We can't revert. We made the playoffs last year. We've got to at least win a game. One game at a time.
How he's going to be thrown out of his office if you go into a season and do worse than you did last year with far more weapons on offense and defense.
Oh, yeah, and I'll be leading the charge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll be right there with you, man. I mean, for good reason.
Yeah. Yeah. But hopefully, man, we don't come to hopefully we are back where we were in 2017 when the season is over. No guarantees, but, that's really a hope every year. But I feel like at least this year we have a chance to go deep. Every game's one game at a time. That was like a very stressful season for me because every playoff game I felt like we could win or lose. I felt 50-50 about every one. We did end up winning it all, but until that final second ticked off the clock, whew,
yeah,
I was very nervous.
Especially like that Hail Mary there at the end of the Super Bowl.
Yeah. With Tom Brady throwing it, you're like, come on, man. Anything can happen.
Anybody can come down with that one, man.
Right. They could throw a penalty flag in the end zone if nobody's even around to do because it's Tom Brady. So you always got to beat the refs in Tom Brady. So the fact that we were able to do that, that was real solid for us. It's another chance, man. It's another year. Everybody's undefeated right now. Do your best to stay that way or stay as close to it as you can. And I mean, all else I could really say is fly, Eagles, fly.
Fly Eagles fly, man. You know what it is.
Yes, sir. So Wyatt, tell everybody where they would be able to locate you besides your appearances here on the Eagles Elite podcast.
Yeah, I mean, everybody can find me over at the Waves 5 Media channel on YouTube, also at Squad Pod Sports on Twitter and Waves 5 Media on Twitter as well. We're on vacation right now as far as Squad Pod Sports. We'll be back, and we usually have our show every Thursday.
Nice, nice, nice. It's always good to take your break from time to time, man. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, so for me, man, you can find me Friday nights, playcollegesportstalk.com, of course, here on Wednesday nights. Tuesday nights, going to go ahead and start putting this out there now. We're going to have a NFL matchup madness that we're going to be doing. More information to come, but Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time, this is going to be a place that you're going to want to be. And this is going to be a place that you will enjoy what you see. Also, we're going to have the NFC Beast podcast that I'll be doing with several other outstanding podcasters. We'll be bringing it to you on Saturday nights. Looks like it's going to be somewhere between the 9 and 10 p.m. hour Eastern time. Still working out some of the kinks with that, but it's coming. Logo has been shared. Probably throw it out again in a week or so just to remind people, but working, man. Just trying to get this thing happening, just trying to hit it from some different angles and scratch that itch, man. The itch is there, got to scratch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's
So we've covered the Eagles. We've talked about them. Excited about the season that's coming up. And just want everybody to know, man, appreciate everyone that's watched, everyone that's subscribed. Tell a friend to tell
absolutely.
a friend. Make sure
And
that
tell that
you're,
friend.
yes, sir. Make sure you're liking the show. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're telling people this is your place on Tuesday nights to be #be elite for great Eagles content. It's here.
Right here.
We're going to be here for you. We know we newer. We just, so many episodes in, but trust and believe. We like bad boy. We ain't going nowhere. It's Eagles
No.
Elite for life.
It's going to be popping here when the season starts, too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So be ready. I'm just going to end the show again. #be elite. #fly Eagles fly.
Fly Eagles fly. See everybody
Catch us
next
next
week.
week.